Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we'll bring you day 248 of Russian invasion into Ukraine with Olexiy Arestovych, Lieutenant Colonel, Advisor to the Office of the President of Ukraine, and Mark Feygin, Russian opposition politician. Today they discuss the recent attack on the Russian Black Fleet near Sevastopol, possible prospects for the West in after-the-war strategic planning, Russia quitting the grain contract and how that affects President Erdogan's promises, and poorly managing Russian generals being fired from their positions. Enjoy. Dear friends, glad to see you all on Feigin Live. It's Saturday, 29th of October, 9 minutes past 10. Sorry about running late today. We had different things delaying us. Regardless, day 248 with Olexiy. We're still glad to see you. Despite my 10 minutes being late, everybody's still happy, right? Yep, 200, almost 1,000 live. We're waiting for you, so yeah, I think they're glad. 45,000 likes are already clicked under this video, so my usual ask, please continue to share it with your friends and your social media, with those people who need to see that. And you can subscribe to Feigin Live, to Olexiy Arestovich, and to the Privateer Station if you are listening or watching that in English. Let's take a quick look at the map and then focus on today's events in Sevastopol. So, if we are being brief, Russian forums insist, and the evil commentators there insist that they are foes, not even sure whom they're fighting there, approached closer to Slatova, which is in the middle of the map being shown. And speaking of the other parts, they still try to push towards Bakhmut. They try to crawl towards Avdiivka, also without much success. Out of new areas of engagement is Ugledar. They are trying some movement there, and they're trying to attack things on the ground. The logic there is understandable, and it basically flows out of the fact that Crimean Bridge has issues with transporting heavy equipment now after the explosion. And even trucks, even heavy loaded trucks have limitations on that bridge. So their other option is railroad that goes a bit north of Mariupol. Basically through Volnovakha, Ilovaisk, Tokmak, etc. This is the railroad that's supplying the southern group and the right bank of Don and Kherson. All that railroad is still reachable, already reachable by our HIMARS artillery, and long-range artillery. A couple of weeks ago, we hit Ilovaisk rail station with their supplies. It was a really successful hit. And now they're seriously concerned about our motion towards Volnovakha from Ugledar. So they decided to push our troops further out, because if we cut this supply line, they're done. They're really done. For now, all the Kherson group that they inflated by throwing new conscripts, now it's about 30 battalion groups, plus about 7 on the other bank. And they're all supported by that supply that were initially delivered to Crimea. So those are good maybe for another month or two. After that, they're running out. And then their glorious leadership understood that if our troops get to Volnovakha, then even the vehicle road, the one that you see, M14, is going to be targeted. So they decided to push our troops further out on Ugledar direction. Now, this is a serious problem for them. The problem of that level is usually being solved at the general command level, at president's level. Ugledar is that corner of the in the center of the map, where it changes from south to north-south direction. That's where they aggregated about 10 battalion tactical groups and a bit of artillery that they have. That's all that Great Russia can offer to counter a strategic threat. That's following an old and unsightly anecdote. They fucked down to the mice. That's all they can do for today. I suspect 10 is even the higher grade, higher expectation than in reality. They probably don't have 10 full-staffed battalion tactical groups there. I would remind that at the beginning of this conflict, 10 of those groups wouldn't even be considered a notable force. 10 groups, okay, well, that's not too important. Let's take a look at this 30-40. 10 was not considered to be a serious threat. Now that's all they could aggregate to try to solve one of the most serious tasks that they're facing. Because Bakhmut and other parts on the Eastern Front, that's political. That's not life-threatening. This one, at the south, is a real strategic issue for them. And this is their real perspectives. One can make certain deductions based upon that. We already done it several times, but we can go over this again. That this puny attempt to jump near Ugledar shows that the war is not just lost, it's completely lost, it's a foobar. And their hopes are only maybe that in November, scary conservatives would come up in the United States and stop supporting Ukraine. But I want to talk about that too. Okay, let's do. Did you see how lost did General Hodges appear in the interview with us? He was rather surprised, I guess, and I have a hypothesis here, and that is being displayed by different speakers on the American side, different experts. I think they're facing a situation where the terms, the planned terms and dates are sliding. They had a certain picture that up until 2024 there'll be Putin in power in Russia. But Russia started crumbling much faster, much sooner. So explain why would it be important for them that 2024, why would they consider that to be beneficial in some capacity? No, I didn't say it was beneficial. I just said they considered Russia to be stronger than it is. It is not that the West intends to pull that war with Ukrainian blood all the way down to 24. No, that was just a general expectation, how long it will last. And now they're facing a situation where things are changing. They probably were a bit delighted after Pelosi's visit to Taiwan and how things got resolved there. And then all of a sudden, things changed. Even you and me, we kind of drown in details. Blew up that bridge, Kiev is without light, Iranian mopeds are flying in our skies. But more important are little slips, for example, in a speech of Steinmeier. And they sound like this: Germany cannot rely on American support that we relied upon for the last 70 years. These are screaming things, in effect. These are things indicating huge turns in the European future. And this is not Australia, Israel, or some other country which is important, but on the periphery. This is being spoken by Germany, which is the core of European Union. China and India are also considering that big change going on, the system of change of influence throughout Europe. And allies, European Union, all of a sudden started to play a more active role. Could you suspect half a year ago that European Union would be donating billions of euros to support us and even organize a special training mission, even more than combined Anglo-Saxon part of our allies? This means a very interesting thing. When elections happen in the United States in November, and probably the right will take Congress, there'll be a very sharp and very brief fight over perspectives in politics. It will be likely the fight over what do we do about losing big areas of influence. And I think the same situation Brits are also facing. They need to come with some agenda and corrected strategic plans adjusted to the fact that Russia is folding much faster and that there is low control areas in the world appearing en masse. That, I think, answers highlights a very interesting path for America, that they need to become way more active. And they will be engaged in controlled demise of Putin's regime, because uncontrolled demise does kick their stools from under them, and they have less control over what's going on in the world. So they would have, I can almost guarantee they will need to become more active in different regions of the world. Now, let's look at the 101st Airborne that hasn't left Europe for a long time, that hasn't left America for a long time. All of a sudden, it's here in Europe. And it's not somewhere in Europe, it's here in Moldavia, not far. And this is a special group, the ones that supports high command tools. In Romania. And what do they say? They say a very simple statement. We're ready to help Ukraine if we need to. And these are the guys who can help guide cruise missiles, who can help establish satellite comms. These are the guys who are very versatile in modern tools of warfare. So this is an interesting perspective. We've been looking at details and details of this war, and I think it dawned on me that the game is actually much larger. And the West is now trying to scuttle and hurry to take control, levers of control in different areas back. And I understand them. This reflects a certain responsibility for events in the world. So, elections in the United States in November will likely indeed affect American policy in the world. And perhaps Putin's regime that was slowly going to be destroyed early spring next year-ish will probably be facing an attempt to help dismantle it much faster. Everything that I know about Americans, they probably will start playing much more active, facing this situation. We have almost 400,000 watching us live, almost 100,000 clicked the like button, and we've been live for about 14 minutes only. Sorry, we've been a bit late. Please continue sharing links to that stream in your social media, and do not forget to click subscribe button. That helps to promote the streams to a wider audience. I understand we do need to pay attention to different levels of analysis. And by the way, we are talking to other American experts, so perhaps we may get them into the fold for this discussion. Especially if we can take an angle of post-Putin Europe and that new configuration that may emerge, including the collective West. And it would be interesting to see and understand the competition of centers of power in Europe, in UK, in Washington. And of course, we understand that everybody is considering new configuration. That happened earlier when they indeed considered European military revival, the change of role of NATO. We'll all see that. But we are very interested in today. And in order, I want to interject here, in order to understand today better, we need to think about strategic perspective. And reflexive management is when you react to things happening without really thinking about what will unfold. You don't have time. The West doesn't work like that. The whole Western school is long-term planning. Good or bad, they are often wrong, but they're still trying to. So when they unfold and doing things and set different scenarios around, that is the result of planning. So my question is, what does the 101st Airborne do on the border? So there is one obvious explanation, and the other is probably a soft explanation. The obvious one is that the demonstration of power. I don't know. Romania is a very ungrateful place to display your power. If you want to display power, you wanted to position this division to Poland, to Baltic countries. Romania is not that. This is more of a discreet and direct military effort, without much of the political posturing. Okay. Sorry, we probably need to wrap this topic up for today, because otherwise we'll have no time to discuss others. Let's discuss Sevastopol in more details. So one thing is open sources, another is real situation on the ground. Do you think that strike was so serious that they canceled their agreement about grain supplies? I think no. I think they wanted to get out of this deal with grain. They cannot sell their stuff effectively, and Ukrainian grain is still going to be available for a bit longer time. We're a bigger grain producer, so they probably use that as an excuse to just get out of this deal. So what happened in Sevastopol? You know, different theories. Official one, perhaps a moped was flying over in the wrong place and they started shooting it up and shot itself up, and perhaps friendly fire, but as a result, Makarov is damaged. We don't know the details of its damage. There were a lot of talks about everything being destroyed, exploding, and sunk. And I was reading open Russian sources. What do they comment on that? They're basically summing it up. They do not know the degree of damage that Makarov got, and the minesweeping vessel, I forgot the name for it. That one got shot in the butt by, let's say, friendly fire, and decisively followed the path of cruiser Moscow. I also heard that friendly fire perhaps was coming from UAVs. Well, you know, maybe UAVs gone rogue, or Iranian operators got offended with something. Do you mean not paid enough? Oh, the usual, right? Just like in Belgorod. Somebody said something against Islam or something else, and operators might have gone rogue, and if their Ayatollah was offended by somebody, things could have happened. Or perhaps, yeah, somebody mentioned General Soleimani in the wrong light, so we don't know details of that. But according to the most modest expectation, 2 or 3 vessels were seriously damaged. According to a more optimistic, 4 of them got damaged. Are they still on the water, or did they sink? Well, they're also mentioning that there were some tanks that exploded, so we don't know. But that's minutia. I suspect those ships probably will not sink. They might, but it doesn't even matter. If Makarov is damaged, is seriously damaged, then it likely will not be able to participate in the ongoing effort. Because this is the one that was shooting up Vinnytsia, by the way, when kids died. This is the ship that was shooting our territory with Iskander missiles. And Russian forums are screaming that treacherous Ukrainians are taking our peaceful warships. Okay. And what do you think when Moscow withdraws from that grain deal? How will that affect the position of Erdogan, who was running his business and providing aid with negotiations with Moscow, and who was conversing with the collective West? I think Erdogan is a very uncomfortable position because they're one of the guarantors of that deal. The agreement is struck between Russia, United Nations, and Turkey, and not between Russia and Ukraine. And Russia, of course, stands everybody up. Very usual thing for them. And they're standing up Erdogan directly. And that's a wrong expectation, I think. They want Erdogan to produce more pressure on Ukraine to not shoot certain targets of Russia. But Turkey is working very actively with Africa, with Northern Africa, which might suffer from food shortages now because Russia withdraws from that supply. And over 100 million people are facing a risk of getting to poverty level on some food supply items. And then their government is facing, in different countries, is facing probable revolts. And now Erdogan was the guarantor that food will continue coming. And he will need to be explaining his position and how it happened. Guess who will be made a patsy? Who will be pointed fingers to? And, Russia also attacked Odessa when the deal was stricken about the grain and supplies. Russia, almost in the first week of it, attacked Odessa, and Ukraine did not withdraw from the agreement. So now we have Russia, who is unreliable in international agreements. Their leader talking about all kinds of ass, and his aides are wiggling their asses in different forums around the world. I want to call it twerking. So, in order to prevent basically friendly fire from 100 million of their allies and people who generally supported Turkey, Erdogan will need to do something. And very likely the blowback from that grain deal withdrawal will be from Erdogan towards Putin. So I think Russia just made their strategic positions much worse by withdrawal. Okay, we talked about another thing yesterday. The conflict between Putin's opprichniks in the face of Kadyrov and Prigozhin that gets a new round. It was understandable that Lapin will likely die as a political figure, as the important general, and he'll be taken out. And I think Kadyrov and Prigozhin indeed were used as an icebreaker in this case to attack military. Oh yeah, Putin is gravely afraid by military. of the cadre officers who can potentially provide some resistance. So whom can they replace him with? Because their bench will be empty soon. It's a problem, Mark, but this is not a severe problem. They are generally incompetent. Most of them are grossly incompetent, others are generally incompetent. And he's still replacing them, right? It's a big system game that was so big that and so hot that it did leak beyond the hidden doors where things usually discussed and decided. If you noticed, yeah, some of the generals actually got criminal prosecution started against them without much public announcement. Now, look, Lapin, was he Putin's favorite? I think he was. He gave him an Order of Hero, personally. So then you have to take down that favorite. He either needs to disappoint you to such a level that you need to acknowledge in front of everybody that you took an asshole and mistook him for a good player, and now you're all mudded in his dirt, and your hand is dirty, your dress is dirty, so you need to apologize and push that person further out. As Sun Tzu said back in the day, if you want to understand the system, look how system rewards and punishes. Here we see a very reflexive awarding and a very reflexive punishment. It's either that or Putin lost grip over Prigozhin and Zolotov and Kadyrov, that they actually can shoot down Putin's favorite through a public campaign. But who will be fighting? No, the question is who manages whom. Imagine Putin did not want to take him down, or he definitely would not want to have a public campaign. But guys decided to do a public campaign and shot down a general, colonel. So how would Mr. Putin react to that now? So, two versions. Putin controls everything, and this is a controlled campaign. But then a question is, why did they remove everybody quietly, and they had to involve Kadyrov and Prigozhin actively to remove Lapin? Or the second version is if these actors, Prigozhin, Kadyrov, and such, started to act by their own volition without being controlled by Putin. And even the first version is also scary too, because when you take out the generals with some experience who will be fighting, same ungifted, conflicted individuals who, politically speaking, are not capable of doing that. The fact is, they are indeed fighting worse. His other candidates are worse than the ones that he currently has. The question is, who is to follow? You know, Stalin shot his generals and command-level generals to potentially clean the less loyal cadre from the military, and he elevated people from the lower levels to the higher levels to replace, and who basically had to perform or die in short terms. This one, Putin cannot do that. He cannot be too rough to his generals at the moment. There was a fake today in Russia that they found a body of Lapin in Moscow River. That was definitely a comedy fake, but very symptomatic of what's going on. They would not be surprised if Lapin would be found hanging or in some other state of disassembly and without a way to assemble him back. This is treated as okay because that's the logic of their system. The problem is who will be replacing him, because in Stalin's army, to replace Blücher and Tukhachevsky, it was Zhukov. Who will be here in Putin's army? I don't think he has higher level officers that can be elevated from colonels to generals. I would tell you nobody should be rapidly graduated from colonel to general and higher. This is a very idiotic experiment that often fails in the world, with some unique exceptions. Why? Because that is not just a change of responsibilities. This is a change of views. Person needs some time to understand a different level of understanding of his activity and effects it produces. And you need 2 to 3 years to gradually grow into that position, into these shoes. Otherwise, it's going to be a very stinking bad story. We also have that. And wildly growing characters are usually bad stories, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 or 4 people who are really talented. So Zhukov could be a reasonable candidate because Zhukov actually before the Second World War did command himself near Khalkhin-Gol because he proved that he can fulfill tasks. The price and the cost of that is another question, but he managed to do that. Because what he did in Khalkhin-Gol, he threw tank units without any infantry support at Japanese who broke the border. He sacrificed the tank brigade, but he did stop the enemy's advance. Who of the Russian officers, high-rank officers right now, can produce or could have produced any success that can be promoted now? I don't know how to answer that question. We have a bunch from those who were commanding themselves near Kiev and events of the recent fronts. Kiev defense operation is probably a dream of a general, of a strategist. There was a collective mind sort of working, but at least we have it. And there was just that strike on the enemy preparing to attack Kiev, basically preceding them by a few hours, is an amazing story. Every officer going to the military training school can only sleep and dream to ever have a chance to do that. And we have other examples of methodic destruction of enemy in different regions. Not brilliant as near Kiev, but, we have different examples. We have people who sunk the Moscow cruiser, other people who managed to turn the enemy to run and capture their positions. We have the whole group of officers growing here. What do they have? Can they name any single operation where they successfully implemented their plan or did something respectable, something definitely highly valued professionally? Where are those people, the graduates from Tank Academy or from anything, anyone? So we don't know whom they'll use or whom they have to replace him with. Well, this is probably a Russian system that just doesn't let the individuals grow. Yeah, that is a good question. This is the system they have where nobody talented can grow. Imagine Lapin is being taken out now, right? He's a military dynasty. He's got a son fighting in the war who's already a colonel, right? Yep. His grandfather was cadre military, so he's being taken out. And now imagine a colonel, some unknown one, being taken, elevated from the front lines to his position. How will they treat him? What he will expect that he will be treated as crap. Especially Prigozhin, Kadyrov, he'll be in their crosshairs too. And that'll preclude him doing anything effective on the front as well. Cautious, yes. Effective, likely no. And you can treat Zhukov, Stalin's generals, as monsters they were, but Zhukov was still a well-awarded officer who started back in the Tsar army and who actually evolved step by step throughout all the ranks. And at every level, facing the risk of being killed together with his men, proved his capacity, learned how to do things. And what about these guys? And this is the war where you have to fight an enemy that uses satellites, all kinds of combined weapons and resources, uses air, artillery, infantry. Who can fight that? He doesn't have officers to elevate in his place. And in such a nervous condition when that person would be in a crosshair of everybody else, how much are you going to fight? How much are you going to do anything? Yeah, there is some logic in it. I was saying from the beginning of September, operation in Kharkov region, a lot of the actions from Russian generality reminded of certain sabotage. Then I was being critiqued that I'm actually diminishing successes of Ukrainian military, but this is not related in this way. Of course, because of systemic issues, Russian officers and Russian army fights less effectively, because we understand how it is being built, how it functions. The problem is that seeing that attitude towards themselves doesn't inspire them to better actions, and also losing the front, losing events on the war, they probably instinctively want to paddle further away from the loss. And even after taking Donetsk and Lysychansk and getting an hero medal, you can quickly turn into a laughingstock if you fail in some other place. And I think nobody wants to be in his position from bigger commanding officers because they see an example. Any leaders in the general command, any other general whom you may want to put in his place, many of them would refuse. Surovikin might agree, people like him might agree, but he's got a different biography and different nature and different connections, perhaps. But to find another general, that would be an issue. I would not be surprised if generals would say, well, you know what, appoint Kadyrov. He likes to command, give it to him. Why not? He is also general, colonel general, of the same rank. You can put him up there. I'm suspecting many generals will push away that responsibility. Mark, I don't think that's the way they think. Yes, some people may be cautious because they look into the future. But somebody perhaps wants to show that, hey, I'll use this time of turmoil to prove myself. Like Surovikin, for example. Different people with different motivation system. And of course, there's going to be somebody who wants to show what he can do on the background of everybody else failing. So I think they'll find a person like that. Surovikin is not a single one. The problem is that with the current economy, current politics, not a single general can do much. I'll tell you more, another scary thing, that with the current line of front, you cannot do anything. Russia now has the most disadvantageous front line. From Kharkov to Kherson, they failed to, even going into defense, they failed to create proper defense line and capture areas that would ensure that they'd be able to defend them in a long time frame. Do you know, by the way, that in Russian propaganda they're already acknowledging officially that they lost strategic initiative and they're switching to defense mode now? This is something I was talking about back in July, that they lost it, and now they're officially acknowledging it. But even for defense, their front line is very disadvantageous. So the best of them on the front line perform at a C- level. It's literally not too much professionalism. Okay. Today, Moscow, several sources, including Zakharova, that poorly washed speaker of Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they blamed Britain in the attacks on the Northern Stream, Nord Stream 1 and 2. And, of course, UK called it an invention, a fabrication of Moscow. And Russia did publish today that they managed to hack into phone of Liz Truss. And Daily Mail published that Putin's spies hacked into Liz Truss's phone. Daily Mail is kind of yellowish print, it's a tabloid, but they still decided for some reason to play that theme here. And Russia appended that to their accusations aimed at Britain that they partook in destruction of Nord Stream. But it could also be Liz Truss thing, could be an internal struggle. Oh, Nikolai Leskov back years when wrote about that. The Brits is pooping it up. Oh yeah, Crimea exacerbated everything back in the 19th century. And yeah, Russians did not really appreciate Brits helping other sides of the conflict. Why do you think they want to peg it on Britain? They're always looking for somebody else to blame. That's their usual modus operandi. They're trying to perhaps quarrel Britain and the United States on the background of American elections and continuous change of leadership in Britain and affect some public opinion maybe. But they're so predictable now and so ideologically depleted that even the middle grader at school can predict what Putin's government is going to say or where they want to point the finger. This is actually a sign that you're running out of strategic options when every step you're going to take is very predictable. Well, look, they're also claiming it wider, and they want to bring it up on the United Nations Security Council and bring up the terrorist acts done by Britain on the Nord Stream and then attacks in the Black Sea. Do you think they consider the Harpoon missiles supplied by Britain to Ukraine as part of that terrorist activity? Mark, people who talked yesterday about battle mosquitoes from the UN Tribune, I think any other statement that follows will not be taken much seriously. Okay, we've been almost 42 minutes live, slightly less. We have 452,000 watching us live, over 140,000 clicked the like button. I appreciate all of you who watched that stream live or who's listening to that recording. Please continue sharing links to that. Those who are watching us from Russia, send it via messengers to those people because people are complaining that in Russia they're having issues watching us. Anyway, cannot control that or check that or verify that. Subscribe to Feigin Live. We're almost 1.9 million. And of course, subscribe to the Privateer Station. We're almost at 20,000, but still need a few subscribers to reach that. So, those at least 35% of you who are watching us without any subscription, do not forget to click that button. And please also find Olexiy's channel and subscribe there. I understand tomorrow you're busy. We're meeting on Monday. We'll see. Maybe we can actually switch it. I might be able to be live tomorrow and not come out on Monday. So we'll let you know. Okay, so watch our announcements. We'll let you know what unfolds. In any case, we'll have other streams and keep following us and our announcements. We also have Telegram, Twitter, and Facebook, by the way, and we'll put some announcements there. Thank you, Olexiy. We'll see you soon. Goodbye, everybody.